Hello, everyone. I have always held as being true the fact that literally the words that we say, the things that we pen, the things we uphold and put out there as our principles, we're going to be tested on them on a fairly consistent basis. And this is why it's really important to have alignment between your walk and your talk, your who and your do. There should be nothing inconsistent about how you present outwardly and the choices that you make, the actions or inactions that you take inwardly where you think nobody's watching. Where am I coming from? Well, recently I wrote this post, my most recent blog, which you can check out on my personal website, Joe-Ezigbo.com. And it was titled, Is Anything Worth More? And this was me coming off from a study I was doing in Matthew 16, and somewhere in verse 26, literally this question was asked, is anything worth more than your soul? And I kind of talked about that and how maybe between turning 50 and losing my father in the same year, death was kind of, something I was looking at from a very different perspective and, re-examining my life on a daily basis. Having said that, and having put that out there, it was pretty well received, I must say, and I will encourage you to check it out. But guess what? I've been tested on exactly that I put out in the last 2 weeks especially. I've been trying to sell one of my properties, for instance, and it's just kind of been hanging there. And my agent finally called and said to me that he had someone that wanted to buy. And the deal seemed to be going fine, and then he asked to meet with me. Now, when he came into my office, he said he wanted to talk about the things that were outstanding. And I said to him, I didn't quite understand that because the idea was that the deal was sealed. I thought they were bringing my checks to me. And he begins to go on about something. I mean, he was rambling. And I remember laughing and saying to him, you know what, sir, you need to speak plain English. And he laughed and he said, oh, he thought he was doing just that. And I said, no, you haven't quite nailed it yet. I need to hear what you're saying. And he was going on about, how he was entitled to a certain level of mortgage in the bank, my property, and how he had to bring 20%, blah, blah, blah. And finally, I said to him, okay, let's stop there. Let me ask you, is this what you're trying to say? Effectively, what it was that he was entitled to a certain level of mortgage. My property was less than that. And he was asking me to please do a deal with him whereby I would put out my property as having been for the higher amount so that he could collect the full amount of the mortgage from the bank and then give the rest to me, the actual cost of the property. And I said to him, well, now you're speaking English, but there's a problem with that. And the problem is, what are we going to put on the deed? Now, his own agent was sitting behind with my agent, and very promptly she chimed in and said, oh, no, ma'am, that one is not a problem at all because, on the deed, we're going to put a figure that is much, 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 much lower. And I said to her with a very straight face, no, we're not. That's exactly the point that I'm making. Any transaction that I do, the exact amount that is the transaction value is what we put on every single transaction document, both the one going to the buyer and the one going to the government, because I'm not afraid to pay my taxes. And I said, so there will be no higher figure going to the financial institution that is bringing the money. Why would you even want to own more than you need to? And there is certainly not going to be a lower figure that is going out to the government so that you can pay lower tax. And he looked at me like, I don't get it. And I looked right back at this gentleman. I said, I'm sorry, sir, but nothing is worth more than my soul. He looked at me for a minute and then he said, okay. And he got up and he walked out of my office. I sent my agent a message to say, why did you bring these people to my office? Because you know exactly how strongly I hold these views, especially around property transactions. And he responded to say he had told them exactly that, but that they insisted because they really didn't believe that anyone would be keen to do the right thing. And they've done so many deals where they do all these kinds of interesting constructs. So, and he said to me, ma'am, you preach to all of us just by being consistent with what you've always said, even though now you've gone back to having this property being sticky in the market. Fast forward to a few days ago, I got another property transaction, interestingly, and the organization at the other end sent me a note where they had said that there is some taxes that are due to be paid and that I had the option to either pay the official fee of about 3 million, or they could get some consultant that I would pay some unofficial fee, and then they would get me the tax assessment for a figure that was a fraction of that. I responded to say, you know what, I'm actually shocked that an institution would literally send an official communication with something so crazy, and that I would not be doing that. And I said again, I'm sorry, nothing is worth more than my soul. I need to be accountable to God for every part of my life, and not just my ministry life. So there is no Christian spiritual minister side of me and then this tough businesswoman side of me. No, my life is a 360, a compendium of one soul, one body, one spirit that I must be able to present to my Father on the last day with as clean hands as is possible. And no, I don't hold out to any form of perfection, but I have this belief and thought that, you know what, for what it is that we can avoid, for the things that we know we should willfully walk away from and not willfully walk into, then the choice needs to be pretty clear, even if it would seem to cost us something in the short term. Why am I talking about this on this platform? And I'm trying not to be preachy, but I'm just saying that for those of us who are entrepreneurs, that we literally need to be quite careful on a daily, consistent basis, the choices that we make, the actions that we take, the things that we think are the smart thing to do, the opportunities, in quote, that it looks like we need to walk into to make a quick deal, to move forward, to save money or make money or something, and ask ourselves if it's worth our souls. When we talk about Nigeria, when we talk about our countries and we find different things to complain about, the government did this, the government didn't do that, we should also be able to look at ourselves in the mirror and establish whether our hands are clean and whether we are feeding into the system of corruption and breaking down of our society, of our nation, of our industry, or whether we might be that smaller majority that are just insisting on the right thing at the right time. So this is my challenge to you today. How are you conducting your business affairs? And yes, on the journey to where you are currently, there are some things you may have done that were not quite in alignment. Let's face it, we don't all start in this place or in this platform of, 100% compliance. And perhaps we never quite get there. I don't know. I'm just saying that for what we want to do with our nation, those of us who are entrepreneurs, literally, we have a great platform within which to change the system in fundamental ways. The more of us that choose to say no, even while it doesn't seem to make sense, the more of us that just choose to do the right thing, the better for the nation, the better for the economy, the better for the world. We can't keep pointing our fingers at government when we ourselves continue to compromise in our own quiet little spaces because we think those little actions don't matter or nobody can see us. It does matter, and you can be seen. If not by those around you, then certainly by God who is in heaven. So I may have transacted with this young man and transacted with this institution in an untoward manner, and perhaps nobody would know. But one day I would be on a pulpit somewhere preaching, and one person at least, or 10 or 5 people around them, would be able to point at me and say, what is she talking about? I did this kind of a deal with her, so what principles is she espousing? But perhaps because of the step I took in saying nothing is worth more than my soul, and I choose to do the right thing because this is what God demands of me, this is what my nation demands of me. Perhaps I've taught 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 people a lesson that they can take forward and do something different in their own communities, in their own businesses, in their own industries. This is my challenge to you today. What is worth more than your soul? Perhaps you want to take a look at your life, take a look at your business, and just reorder a few things. This is me making out no bones, I'm not perfect. Making out no bones, my business is not perfect, but we're certainly on the path, and God will help us. I hope He helps you too as you commit to the process. And I hope this was useful to you. If it was, drop me a comment. I look forward to engaging with you. Take care.